We've talked a lot about bad leftist art on the show recently, and this is, it's not just because I have my own movie out, Am I Racist, in theaters now. Get your tickets at amiracist.com. I'm not just trying to draw a contrast between poor quality art and my film, which is good quality art. That's part of it, but it also just happens that there's been a lot of this terrible stuff recently. We're experiencing a surge of cringy lib content, perhaps none cringier than this. The media this week is raving about a new off-Broadway play called Fatherland. The play tells the true, and we're told heroic, story of a son, Jackson Reffitt, who turned his own father into the feds and testified against him for his role in January 6th. The real-life father, Guy Wesley Reffitt, is now serving a 7-year prison sentence, thanks at least in part to his son's testimony. The play dramatizes the son's allegedly noble decision to betray his own father. And based on the clips that have been aired on MSNBC, the whole thing is about as overwrought and self-important as you might expect. Let's watch a clip of this thing.
Down everyone who was there, you know that's right, you know that.
Yepers.
Videos and cell phones.
Government's closing in.
Wasn't that, bad?
I don't care.
How can you not care?
Because I didn't break any laws. Tell me the law I broke.
You smashed through police barricades and you overtook the United States Capitol.
I didn't break any laws.
You carried your weapon on the federal grounds.
Okay.
Okay,
I carried my weapon on the federal grounds that we own, that American citizens own.
Paying taxes gives you no right.
You said I pay taxes.
What?
I had every constitutional right to carry a weapon and to take over Congress. Just because a law is written does not mean it's the right law. We went in there, they scurried away like rats and hid. That is how you do it.
That was a scene from the new off-Broadway play, Fatherland, which opened last week.
Now, first of all, maybe I went back and listened to that like 3 times to see if I heard it right. Did he say yepers? Did I hear that right? At the very beginning of the clip, the son is like, you stormed the Capitol. And then the father emerges from the shadows. Yepers. Did he say that or did I imagine that? What did he say? A guy like that would never say yepers. What? Did he say yes, sir? I mean, what did he? It's an honest question. I don't know what he said. I think he said yepers. Second, nothing about the dialogue that you just heard there reads as authentic. It instead reads as exactly what it is, a left-wing theater kid's fever dream, which is even more apparent in this next clip that was also aired by MSNBC. Let's watch that.
Anybody who was there on the 6th should be locked up for the rest of their lives. Everyone.
Are you recording this?
What?
Are you recording this?
No! I am not recording.
You better not be. Don't betray me. Don't ruin this family. Do not put this family in jeopardy.
I am not the one that is putting our family in jeopardy.
If you cross a line here, I will do my duty. I will have no other choice. Choose a side! Choose a side or die! I put you in this world. I can take you out. Don't turn your back on me!
I'm not turning my back!
Whoever turns his back on me is a traitor! Is that what's happening here? If you turn me in, you are a traitor. And traitors get shot.
I mean, it legitimately looks hilarious. If I lived in New York, I would go to this play. I would go to the play and watch it because it looks great. Not for any of the reasons they want it to be great, but if I wanted to make a parody of a liberal play about January 6th, it would be exactly this. No edits, no notes. Perfect. It works perfectly as parody. The total lack of subtlety and nuance just gives it the feel of satire. It didn't have to be this way. They could have made an actually interesting play on this subject if they had been willing to portray the father as a real human being and not a cartoon. But that was not an option for them because in the liberal mind, January 6th is one of the darkest days in human history, and the people involved are some of the greatest villains of history, and they will not allow themselves to see it any other way. The left likes to talk about empathy and compassion, but of course they are sorely lacking in both departments. And this is one of the reasons why their art is so subpar. It also makes them less effective politically. Because you have to understand your opposition in order to counter it and defeat it. But they don't understand Trump supporters, and they never have. They refuse to allow themselves to understand. Their pure seething rage blinds them. Hillary Clinton, of course, famously called Trump supporters deplorables back in 2016. That was her explanation for why people support Trump. Nobody on the left has ever come up with another explanation. That remains their one single insight. People support Trump because they're bad. Why did January 6th happen? Well, because Trump supporters are bad. That's as deep as their analysis goes. That's a shame because when it comes to this particular case, there are some interesting angles that could be explored. The most interesting and troubling is not that the father was at the Capitol on January 6th, but that the son turned on him. So here is the son, the real-life son, Jackson, on MSNBC, explaining his decision.
Let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the real-life incident here after January 6th and what compelled you to turn in your father.
Well, the tip actually came in from before January 6th. My dad was getting way more radicalized as time went on, following Trump and isolating himself more and more, and it was terrifying.
What were some of the signs you saw?
He was watching all sorts of media that was terrifying. He isolated himself to online groups that were far-right, radical, and he was growing more and more violent, not to just the family, but to the people around him. And it scared me.
And then when you saw it January 6th, how soon after did you realize your father was involved, that you had to act further?
It was while they were pointing guns at the doors of the house.
You saw him there?
He was texting my mom and FaceTiming her, and it was delusional.
And did you have any hesitation about going further? I mean, he is your father, but as you say, you saw him there with guns, and prosecutors said he lit the match of January 6th.
Of course. It was the hardest decision I've ever made, and it continues to haunt me to this day. But, I don't regret it, and I still feel for him and my family.
So Jackson was scared by the media his father was consuming. We don't know what kind of scary media it was, but scary in this guy's world doesn't have to mean that his dad was, perusing neo-Nazi forums in some dark corner of the internet. He could have just been watching Sean Hannity, for all we know. Like the father's watching The Five on Fox News, and Jackson is cowering in the corner, trembling, terrified. That's probably what happened, but I don't know. But the real point here is that Jackson did exactly what the left wants all of us to do. Whether we have family members who were involved in January 6th or not, they want us to choose the state over our families. That's what this story is actually about. It's a son facing a choice. He can remain loyal to his father, his own blood, the man who raised him, or he can align himself with the government against his father. It was his father or the federal government, the family or the state. He would have to defy one for the sake of the other. He could either be a loyal son or a loyal subject, and he chose to be a subject. He chose the state. That's what makes him a great hero to the left, while the rest of us normal people see him as a treacherous backstabber, a turncoat who took sides against his family. This is what the left seeks to do to all of our families, even if in less dramatic fashion in many cases. They want to drive a wedge between child and parent, between husband and wife. The bond of the family is a threat to their agenda because, in their minds anyway, it undermines the authority of the state. A man who honors his father more than he honors the bureaucracy in D.C. is a problem. It's harder to manipulate, harder to control such a person. Jackson Reffitt is then their perfect role model, the example that they want us all to follow. And that is why the Cringy play meant to honor this deeply dishonorable person is today canceled. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.